Hey, thanks for tuning in to my official YouTube channel. I'm Reverend MeeLing, been known by a few names: Reverend MeeLing, Reverend Susan MeeLing, Lady MeeLing, Lady Dori, Belle, so on and so forth. So I found this particular Twitter rant or whatever that some might consider a rant. Realistically, I was born and raised in New Jersey. I know this East Coast sort of stuff. So I'm going to play it for you real quick, and then I'm going to make my commentary. And it's going to be a little satirical in certain regards. So, bear with me. So here's what this individual, Tina40, has to say.
I voted in person. Because you can shove your mail-in voting up your fucking asses, Democrats. I don't hear about no China virus in November. What, so you can cheat? That's all you wanted for, so you can cheat. Because you know you cannot beat Donald Trump. You cannot beat him. You can come at him with everything like you've been doing. Okay? If you can riot, I can vote. If you can protest, I can vote. If you can loot, I can vote. And I voted in person like I will do in November, because you will not take that from me. And I'm a New Yorker. I voted in the primaries today. Trump 2020, motherfucker. Fuck out of here.
So, I know that sort of attitude, and it's not really an attitude, it's just a personality trait. And so, she's in a good mood. She's proud of the fact that she voted. Let me clarify that for people who don't necessarily understand that type of discussion. So she's in a good mood. She's very much letting, individuals know, as far as the voting mail-in thing, that she is not going to accept that at all whatsoever. She has a little bit of a competitive aspect in that regard because, she voted for Trump, and after all the stuff that has gone on since the current president of the United States of America, Donald Trump, has, essentially from the time that he announced for his presidency in certain regards, but especially after he earned the Republican nomination, as well as after becoming president of the United States of America, certain individuals and their responses, she's, very much letting you know. But not in a threatening way at all. Now, I dealt with some people in Austin, Texas, to be specific, though there had been a few other areas in the state of Texas, that tried to tell me that when I was talking the way I am now, that they considered that scary. That they considered what I am talking like now to be threatening to them. So I'm going to give you an example of which this did occur. I know there are people who can verify this. And I'm going to translate as I go through. So, on my way over to this particular event in May in Austin, I had read something online before leaving my house that I was renting at the time in Cedar Park. And I had read something a female on FetLife had said, Lady Albatross, about me. And so when I showed up to this particular event, I walked over to Lady Albatross. She was sitting at a picnic table with a bunch of people. And I walked over between where she was sitting on the patio table type thing, or picnic bench type thing. And so there's a fence over here, okay, about 10 feet away. I'm about 5 to 6 feet away from Lady Albatross, and I look at her and I said, I saw that you posted something about me and I would like to discuss that with you. Now again, you have this reference of the Twitter thing. Those were my words to this individual. Lady Albatross said, Lady Dori Belle to me, you are being so confrontational. You need to just not be so confrontational. Now, that female was not being confrontational. I was not as far away as I had been. So then I leaned against the fence. And I was just maybe giving that additional space would make her feel more safe from the non-confrontation that was occurring. So I lean against the fence line, and those from the East Coast and military guys do have a different understanding and comprehension on that. That particular female, I know she knows what that means. And so I just kind of leaned back, and mind you, I was standing on grass in stiletto heels, and I was wearing a corset and a pencil skirt. So I'm leaning back, not losing my balance, by the way, and just, I responded, and I said, Lady Albatross, I'm letting you know, I am not being confrontational at this point in time. I'm very calm, I'm very relaxed, I know myself. Lady Albatross, no, you don't. You don't know what you're doing. You are so confrontational. You are just all up in my space. Again, still leaning against the fence line while she's sitting at the patio park bench thing. No, I'm not being confrontational, especially in reference to the area I grew up in and how I grew up, not just in New Jersey, but going to the 5 boroughs in New York, as well as Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and being very calm, and I am not confrontational. I'm just asking you a question so that way I can get some clarification and understanding to what you referred to. Lady or Lucky Albatross, no, you are being so confrontational. You are all in my space. You don't know. You just need to back off. Still leaning against the fence. I'm going to let you know I'm not being confrontational. I am giving you plenty of space to show yourself. I'm going to reiterate, I'm not being confrontational. I would just like to understand in a more clear and concise way, because I obviously do not have the reference points in what you wrote, so I would just like to have that understanding. Lady Dori Belle, if you don't stop being so confrontational, I'm going to tell everyone in Austin that you are so confrontational. I'm leaning against a fence. There is more than 10 feet between you and I. Where I grew up, I don't care about where you grew up. You're being confrontational. In the state of Texas, that is considered confrontational. What you are doing is considered confrontational. I do not believe you. I do not believe that me leaning against this fence with 10 to 15 feet between you and I don't think that's confrontational anywhere. And I have a feeling that there are certain individuals from the state of Texas that would very much agree that what you claim as confrontational in the state of Texas is not what most Texans would consider confrontational in the state of Texas. Why would you say that, Lady Dori Belle? Well, the space would be the first example. The second example, in my thoughts, I was thinking there is a Second Amendment sort of aspect, which in a more specific way in the state of Texas, I see as confrontational in this situation. My tool bags are in my car. I don't see us as confrontational. I don't see a bunch of people from the state of Texas thinking that this will be considered confrontational. In my thoughts, once again. But then I said, out loud, I am not being confrontational. I don't think by anybody's standards. Lady or Lucky Albatross. You don't know what confrontational is. You are being so confrontational. I have been taking courses in college, and I can tell you that you are being confrontational. Do your courses in college ever teach you about body language? Because my body language, for the average individual, would understand that this is not confrontational. There are certain individuals where I'm from and with a heavier background than I have in a specific aspect, who would look at my body language and say that I'm not being confrontational, though I am ready. However, not confrontational at all, but very much so ready. Ready for what? Well, the guys who have a heavier background, where I had my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, would very much be able to say, just looking at this particular surrounding, that I am not being confrontational, but I am ready. So for those of you who were not there, let me give you a little bit more detail. So it was a BDSM event. Those who understand BDSM understand certain tools and implements that are involved in the BDSM lifestyle. And there was a tent that was less than 10 feet from the other side of the picnic table, where there were several different scenes going on at once, and all of their tools were laid out. I already had picked which ones, if absolutely necessary, that I would be able to grab with the ease and swiftness. Not forgetting the barbecue pit that I could have picked up and thrown at her and used as a bat on her. Not including the fact that she was sitting at a portable patio table, that the whole table could have been used. Not forgetting the fact that there were a couple of loose boards where I was leaning against that I could have very easily ripped out because they were nailed in and not screwed in. And so those are just a few examples, not forgetting the stuff that was actually on the patio table, such as mugs and plates and forks. And so I'm just going to leave it at that, because I think that there are a few guys with certain backgrounds that could be like, so, oh, by the way, again, I was wearing stiletto heels. And I was wearing a corset. And believe you me when I say I know how to use my corset, not just to put it on, but what else can be done with that. So, I was very much not being confrontational at all, but I was very much ready. there might be a few guys who might say that's a little bit more than ready. That is full-fledged prepared. Like ready is the nicest way I could put that. So later that evening, there was a situation. Surprise, surprise. And so I'm sitting with a guy who has a background in what I was referring to and was born and raised in New Jersey. We got along fantastically. Kind of just a few things. And so that guy definitely could be like, this is not confrontational at all, especially what state we grew up in, and with the military background. Now, again, he actually graduated basic training and AIT and got to do stuff where I'm just me. However, I did get second place or third place when sparring at my first Taekwondo competition against brown belt with a black stripe and above as a green belt. And then second or third place in form. So again, very, very, I'm not being confrontational. So I'm sitting there with the guy and he and I are talking. And we're having a good discussion about whatever we were discussing. He had his leather vest on that had his army patch on the back of the motorcycle vest. And two females that were friends with Lady or Lucky Albatross that were sitting at the table at the time of the, you're being so confrontational. No, I'm not being confrontational. I am not. No, I'm not. So these two little females come and bop over to where the guy and I are talking and sit at that particular picnic bench table. On the other side, the blonde looks at the guy and says, "You're a murderer." Both that guy and I look at each other, look in opposite directions, look back at each other, look at the female and go, huh? And that particular female with her brunette friend were like, you are such a murderer because you are in the army. And at that point, I look over, I go, do you two really want to start this? I really don't think that you want to go there. I think that you guys should stop. The two of them, whatever, you're just a girl. What do you know? I know what that guy can do. I know what I can do, and I know that that guy cannot go do certain things because we're a civilian section, and you little girls don't need to be playing with that fire. That is going to get you hurt. It's not going to be burnt. It is going to be hurt. Yeah. And so, I'm paraphrasing. And so, the two of them continued attacking guy who's like family, a friend to me, about his military background. I have a thing. I have this thing. You just don't do that. No. And he was still in the military at that time. So it was an even heightened sense where it was like, no, you can't. Cannot do that. No. So they're going back and forth. And at one point I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to sit on top of this. I'm just going to sit on top of it. Hey. hey. And then he looks and he's like, oh, you're in a corset and you're sitting on the table. It's like, yeah, look, I got a corset on, yes. Look. This is the only red you should be seeing right now. Don't pay attention to any of the other. And you two little girls, you two need to stop. Because if you don't, it's going to be a problem. He is not a murderer because of his job. He is not a murderer because that is not considered murder when it is saving your own life and the lives of your guys. So you might want to rethink that by a lot. You need to back off. And that is the short version, essentially, of what occurred. Now, after those two little girls, I mean, they were college students, so the way they were acting. And so there was a few moments between those two little girls and I that the only way I can describe is there was a point in time years before, well, a year before my head injury on Palm Sunday in 2000, where I had sat down next to a friend of mine, saw that there was a handprint on his face, and I asked him what happened. He said that a female slapped him because he said no to her to going to a Sadie Hawkins Day dance. I walked over to that particular female, picked up the table and threw it, pulled her chair closer to mine, and we had some words, but nobody in the vicinity could hear what was said to that female. That is a very good example in reference to those two particular females from college, little girls. That was confrontational. That was confrontational. The aspects over at the picnic table with Lady or Lucky Albatross, that was not confrontational. Lesson learned. And so, after the words that could be possibly construed in a minor way, nothing compared to that. I didn't have my New Jersey accent when I was speaking. I was whispering. Though that might be quite scary at times. I simply just, be thankful for your freedom of expression. Because guys with backgrounds like that are the reason why you can sleep in your fluffy beds at night and not have to worry about certain things that occur in other locations. Now, not necessarily confrontational, technically. Technically. A few other words, but, nothing too bad, then again. So, then the two little girls, little college students, ran off to wherever they went, and, hey, let's go for a walk. Look, I see a bird in that tree. Do you see that bird? You see that owl right there? Yeah, look at that. Where's your coffee mug? Oh, right there, yeah. We'll get you coffee. Can give me a coffee mug. Give me a coffee mug. Because he was holding on to it tight. And see, there's another reference. And so, I'm going to go get you coffee. I'll be right back. And ran inside in stiletto heels. Corset and pencil skirt. But ran, nonetheless, on the grass in that backyard. Where's coffee? It's important right now because there could be a conversation, and so coffee is important. you. And then ran back out the back patio over to that particular individual. Hey, look, coffee. But I knew not to come up from right behind him and be like, hey, what's up? No, I knew better. I went on the side and I was like, hi, coffee. Or, look, coffee? Want some coffee? And that guy did not go to prison that night. Yeah, he did not. No, he still hasn't, but that's a good thing, so yeah. So, in reference to that, I didn't do any East Coast accent. Like, because when I get to a certain level of anger, that's when my East Coast accent comes out. I've been informed. I never noticed it. It was just one of those, I was going off on a temper tantrum tirade. And the individual I was with at the time looked over and he said, did you ever know that when you get angry, you're, like, I can tell you're from New Jersey? And I look over, what do you mean? What's that got to do with it? It's just, the accent comes out real quick. Well then. And so I prefer to be calm. I do. Although even when I have my East Coast New Jersey accent, at least I'm still talking. I have warned people over the years. It's better, in certain regards, for someone like me, in certain references of certain things, that as much as you may not like what I have to say, at least you are hearing me speak. At least you are seeing me type. It's when you don't. That's when you need to be worried. When you don't hear me speaking, when you don't have some sort of social media thing going on, that's when you should actually be worried if you cross me. If you make the mistake to cross me, well, I prefer to be friends. I do. I prefer to be friends. I can be acquaintances. I prefer friendship. Genuine friendship, not garbage. But if you prefer to go and do certain things, like I don't like lying, don't ever lie about me. I don't cheat, so don't ever say that I cheated, because I don't. Don't ever falsely testify against me, because that is going to be a day you'll regret. Do not covet what is mine, because it's mine. That sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it's better that we're friends, because you really don't want me as your enemy. You really don't. And if I ever go silent, you better wish that there will not be a day. And this was back in 2000, that was 2011. No, that was 2010. I take that back. Yeah, it was 2010 or 2011, one or the other. Either way, you better wish that there will not be a day that I go silent. Because if I go silent, if you don't hear what I have to say, if you don't see me typing, better check yourself. Better. You don't want that. At all. Those are dangerous waters that you are not capable of treading. those rogue waves will get you. And the undertow on that, you don't want that. So I prefer to be friends. It's much better that way. I prefer that. But you're going to make your choices. And how you choose to do as you choose is exactly that. Just remember, you'll have to live with those choices. So, I didn't give that warning to everybody. I just kind of figured with being known in the lifestyle as Lady Dori Belle, and it being known that I'm a dominant sadist. I mean, how much more dominantly sadistic can you get with the name Lady Dori Belle? If you really think about it, how much more dominantly sadistic could my name be? First and foremost, I explained my name and why I chose my name to be as such. However, at the exact same time, though it may sound like the French l'adorable, when spelled out, again, irony, there's a downpour of rain right now. However, I don't really think like there was really much more I could do for that. If you really think about it, dominant sadist, made my name Lady Dori Belle. How much more dominantly sadistic can that be? If you really think about it, sadists tend to go for the intellectual aspect in certain regards. It's not always like about physical stuff. Dominant, yes, that's more physical. So, just say, if there were certain individuals in the BDSM lifestyle that ironically, because the few people that I had said, you better, wish, blah, 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 they actually told me at some point in time that they, kind of hoped to not have to hear me speak or write. On social media platforms. They actually wanted to see what that would be like. Well, how'd that turn out? I truthfully would like to know. You guys have a good one. Comment, like, share, and subscribe to my official YouTube channel. Have a good one.